Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we're looking at the MLB slate for Monday. It is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. Everybody watching, hopefully the weather is nice where you guys are. It hasn't been the best weather up here, but hopefully, clears up a little bit today. We're able to spend some time outside, watch some baseball, watch some NBA, have a good time today. So let's get into it. As always, appreciate it if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow on Twitter if you want updates and stuff like that. It's at the DFS process, and let's get started here. So, looking at the lineups today, this 9-game slate, there's only a couple of teams that I really am interested in the bats today. The Twins definitely stick out against Jorge Lopez. They get a big ballpark boost going into Baltimore, going into Camden Yards, and they're facing off against a poor pitcher that gives up a ton of power. This Twins lineup is dealing with a lot of injuries, but I still expect them to be able to do some damage off of Lopez, which basically every team has done this year except for, he's pitched well in a couple spots, but overall, he's given up already 9 home runs in just 45 innings. Even if he does pitch well, I still would assume he gives up at least 1 or 2 bombs. And this Twins lineup is still powerful enough to where, if you look at this lineup, you can still get to guys like, this is Fanduel pricing, to DraftKings, you can still get to guys like Josh Donaldson, Cruz, you have Sano, and then you have value at the bottom of the order with 6 and 7 if they're both $2,300 and $2,500. Twins, very nice to get to. My favorite stack. Second stack that I do like is the Padres. They're facing off against probably a bullpen day for the Cubs today. Wind blowing out. They also get a nice boost in terms of going into a good ballpark. Their lineup is pretty affordable besides Tatis, who is expensive as he should be, but you can easily get to like Will Myers in the 6th hole at only $3,200. You have a $2,800 catcher. Tommy Pham batting leadoff, and then I throw in Machado and Tatis if it's a full 5-man stack. Cronenworth makes some sense as a second base option as well. And then you can mix in and match some of these other teams that have decent totals. Like, I like going to guys like Dickerson on the Giants just because he's very affordable. Crawford already has like 10 or 11 bombs this year. He's been hitting the ball really well. And on the Red Sox side, he could be making his return after he was on the injured list. You can go with like Vasquez maybe, or like Verdugo, super cheap at only $3,300. Those are some of the guys that I'm looking at. And then the A's in Seattle here, they're facing off against Gilbert, who is a top prospect for the Mariners. So I mean, he pitched very well in AAA and in the minor leagues last year. He hasn't been the best so far in his few starts. They have a 4.6 total. I'd look to guys like Moreland at $2,800. I look to Seth Brown, and then Olsen and Mark Canha. They will be a stack I get to. I don't want to go to Gilbert at 51. I don't need to. Just because looking at the pitching options, there's plenty at the top that I like with Corbin, Burns, and you can go Rodon if you wanted to, but I like Burns, and I like Barrios a ton. You can go with Caprolin from the A's side at $9,100, and then for value, you have potentially like a Tyon or a Johnny Cueto or a Chris Paddock. Probably like Paddock the most and Tyon than Cueto. I don't really play him that much. Then I don't want to go to anybody in the 5K range as pitcher. And then you have a $4,800 Tyler Alexander, who is going up against this Brewers team that does have a good amount of lefties, but I would still look to like Garcia and Lorenzo Cain against him. The two pitchers that I like a lot are Corbin, Burns, and Barrios. Both get some really good matchups here against some strikeout-heavy teams. Burns has been awesome this year. He's starting to give up some runs recently. He gave up 4 runs against the Padres, but this lineup is completely different than the Padres lineup. He is at home pitching against a very strikeout-heavy team, very righty-heavy team as well, with a couple of switch hitters in there. I think Burns will have a lot of success. Such a great strikeout pitcher. And then Barrios been great this year, 3.68 ERA going into Baltimore. He does get a ballpark downgrade, but he's been better on the road, and he did well against this Baltimore team earlier where he went 5 2/3, put up 23. Besides Mancini, there's just not too much to scare on this Baltimore lineup. And going back to first base here, like Abreu was very expensive. I don't think I'll get to him at that price tag. I'm looking to trying to get to like some of these Twins bats, maybe throw in like Matt Olson, throw in Mitch Moreland. It's very cheap at $2,800 if you needed to. And you also have Miguel Sano, who has power, strikes out a lot. Not the best play because he can sometimes just get you 0-4, 3 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts like he did last game. This sort of matchup, I think it just makes some sense. He also has the ability to break the slate, as he showed a little bit ago where he had 3 home runs in a game. I think it makes some sense at only $3,800. He's cheap enough to where even if he gives you a bagel, it might not kill you if you get some production from your other spots. And it's just such a good spot against Jorge Lopez. Second base, looking at like Cronenworth potentially. Not a lot of good options here, so makes some sense to go with Cronenworth or go cheap here, or maybe one of these guys bats at the top of the order, like some of these guys on the Giants, or some like Solano's been decent this year. You have Jonathan India against Velasquez. We'll see what this lineup looks like, or these lineups look like later. But second base looks pretty ugly, so don't have a ton of conviction except for Cronenworth. Third base, it's Machado. It's my favorite play. But based on price tag, I think Donaldson looks a little bit better. He's only $4,700. Do want to stack up the Twins today, and going Donaldson Sano makes some sense. Donaldson is struggling a little bit with his batting average has dipped. He's only been batting 111 in his last 10 games. Great spot to kind of break out of that. He's been a lot better on the road this year, 286, so that's a good sign. He still has a lot of power, and he's just been a bit unlucky. He's not striking out a ton, only 25 strikeouts and almost 140 at-bats, so that's like well under 20%. Or about 20%, I believe. Probably under 20%. But do like Josh Donaldson just because he's pretty affordable at $4,700 for your third base position. And I just love that stack today. You can go with Rendon as a pivot. You can go with Suarez as a pivot. Just because I do think Donaldson will be popular. And then you have Urshela against the lefty if you wanted to go that route. And that's it unless some of these guys bat like lead off or bat in the top half. At shortstop, it is going to be Tatis, as the play does sticks out a lot at $6,100. If you can't get all the way up to him, you can easily go to a guy like Brendan Crawford, who's surprisingly shown off some power this year. Didn't think that would happen. He has 11 bombs on the road. He has been doing a bit better. He's at home in this one, but Bundy gives up a lot of power, and lefty-righty matchup for him. He's been good all season and been pretty consistent. So at only $3,800, makes some sense as a cheap shortstop play. In the outfield, a couple of guys I like that are affordable. You can't go Trout today, still on the injured list. So you basically have Judge against Hill or Randy Arozarena, two guys. I like Judge a little bit more than Arozarena, but both of their matchups aren't the easiest ones. You have Ohtani, who looks great. He's been awesome this entire season. And you have Cruz, who I would like to get to, especially since I'm stacking up the Twins side. But for some value here, you have Castellanos at only 45. Velasquez is worse against lefties, but Castellanos been so good this year. He's leading the league in a batting average at 359. He's been awesome. If you want to go to a cheaper red, I think Tyler Naquin makes some sense at only $3,700. But the guys that I like right now are gonna be Verdugo against Urquidy. He's just too cheap at $3,300. He's a very solid hitter. Especially going into Houston. It's not the worst ballpark to hit, and he's been better on the road as well. And lefty-righty matchup for him. Urquidy making his return. He's a decent pitcher, but I still think I'd look to a couple of these Red Sox bats. He hasn't been great with the strikeouts. Does give up some bombs, so I don't mind getting to Verdugo. And then the other guy I like is Will Myers, just because he's so cheap at only $3,200. He's been on a bit of a hot streak recently. If he bats 6 in lineup, he has home runs in back-to-back games. Had a 3-hit game, a 2-hit game recently against Houston. And he's a guy that's pretty streaky, so right now that he's hot, might as well take advantage of him because the home runs should come in bunches. Now he started off the season super hot, hitting a bunch of home runs. Then he went on like a month and a half cold streak, and now it looks like he's hot again. So won't be shocked if he has another couple of home runs later this week. So that's it for DraftKings. Let's jump over to FanDuel. All right, FanDuel-wise, pitching-wise, you have Burns at 10.6. He's the most expensive pitcher, as you would expect. Definitely has the highest ceiling on the slate. Barrios checks in nicely as well at 91 if you needed some savings. It's based on some of the value that we have. It's going to be pretty easy to get up to Burns if you wanted to, and I kind of do. Catcher, first base. You can pick between some of these Twins bats. We have Garver and Sano both at $3,000. You can go up to a Matt Olson at $3,500. And then for value, you have like Moreland at only $2,400, and a couple of these catchers that look decent, like Vasquez at $2,300. Second base, it is you can go Cronenworth, who's pretty affordable. See his price tag if he is second base should be. He's $2,600, so pretty easy to get to him. You can go up to a Torres or a Albies here. And for value, it's basically Polanco at $2,500, who looks pretty solid. Third base, still like myself some Josh Donaldson. Here you have Tatis at $4,500. He's very expensive, but it's actually, you can get to him if you wanted to. Just have to go cheap at some of these outfield spots and maybe go cheap at like second base catcher. And definitely doable just because there are some cheap outfielders that I like. Speaking of outfield, yeah, Will Myers is very affordable still. $2,200 on FanDuel. You just get a huge bump. Already get it back up to $2,960. Going with Will Myers, who looks very nice based on his price tag. And then you can even go with like Avisail Garcia against a lefty who looks appealing just because he's always been good against lefties. Hits for high average against them, has some pop, and has like 10 bombs this year already. So been hitting the ball well. Good ballpark to hit in at home against a lefty. So that's still easy with about 3,000 left for the rest of the 4 spots. Definitely doable if you wanted to play Tatis. If not, you can go down and go up to some other spots. But do like Tatis today a lot. So that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have a great Memorial Day, and I'll catch you all next time.